Hello everyone, welcome to Real Science Challenge. I'm Kent Louie, science teacher and talking head, broadcasting from beautiful Vancouver, Canada. Now last week I was giving a workshop on standards-based assessment or standards-based grading or SBA, however you want to say it. And one question that came up, which comes up a lot, was whether we're allowed to fail students when we use SBA, because some of my colleagues have heard from their administrators that students aren't allowed to fail in SBA. But from my own experience, students have failed while using SBA, and I'll tell you how in a second. But before we dive deeper into the misconceptions and why a student is still allowed to fail in SBA, handouts for this episode can be found at realsciencechallenge.com/EP49. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, quick refresher. In SBA, students are assessed on a 4-level proficiency scale, starting at emerging, then to developing, proficient, and finally extending. The misconception that students can't fail comes from the misguided idea that all students start at emerging, that basically all students have a basic ability at performing a skill, so long as they attempt to perform a task, regardless of how horribly they may have performed it. In other words, the misconception is that because a student tried, they are automatically at the lowest level on the scale. Emerging, which says the student demonstrates an initial understanding of the concepts and competencies relevant to the expected learning. However, I would argue that not every student necessarily starts at emerging. Some students don't make it to emerging at all, and that's how a student can fail in an SBA system. Now here's a scale that I kind of revised as 2 additional categories. Now how a student can fail is when a student does one of 2 things. Number 1, they don't answer questions, or they avoid performing tasks in general. And I consider this incomplete, all right? The second thing they can do is they don't write down, what I mean is they write down answers that don't really answer the question, or they perform tasks that are not contributing to their learning. I consider this to be insufficient evidence. For example, let's say that on a test, I ask students to write an argument for which organelle in the cell they believe is the least important. Now, an incomplete response would be no response at all. An insufficient response would be if they wrote something that didn't answer the question, like cells have organelles, or plant cells have chloroplasts, and animal cells don't. Now, although both statements are correct, it doesn't really answer the question of which organelle do they believe is least important. Now, of course, getting incomplete or insufficient evidence one time doesn't automatically mean that a student fails. It just means that they weren't able to complete that task at that moment to the emerging level. However, if a student consistently shows that they can't perform a skill at the emerging level and instead regularly gets incomplete or insufficient evidence, then I think a student can't fail. That's it for this episode. Please smash the like or subscribe button or leave a comment below. And handouts, once again, all the things you saw on screen are available at realsciencechallenge.com/EP49. Thanks for watching, and let's talk science education again soon.